Hello and welcome to Jesus is the Way. Thank you for watching. Today we have a powerful testimony from Pastor Paul Buntyn from San Marcos, Texas. Just an incredible testimony, just the transforming power of God. And I'm so excited to get into that. Amen. But first, He is the potter and we are the clay. He molds us and He makes us and He has a purpose for our lives. And Pastor Paul is here. He's the senior pastor at Abundant Life Christian Church in San Marcos, Texas, originally from Harlem, New York. And he is proud of that. And I'm so excited about this testimony. I'm not even going to talk a lot because it is fascinating to me, the life, Paul, that you have lived and the glory of the Lord that is in your life and what you're doing now for Him is just amazing. And I just want you to take us right back to Harlem when you were a kid and tell us what that was like. You were growing up in the early 60s, mid 60s, late 50s.
Actually, I was born, well, I don't mind saying it now since it's out, you know. I was born in 1948. And in Harlem, right in what you might call in central Harlem. Harlem is divided up in certain places, East Harlem, North Harlem, but we were classified as Central Harlem, right? In the, as a matter of fact, my block, my neighborhood, was a pretty rough, tough neighborhood. Not saying it's rougher than anybody else, but I can remember an article that was written, an article, I want to say it was around early 1960s. I remember reading it in one of the papers, that it said it was the dirtiest and nastiest and toughest block in the US of A.
Wow. And
being a freshman in high school, you know, that was, and plus the high school I went to was in an area in Queens that was classified as mostly predominantly Anglo. And so reading an article like that and then knowing where I was from, you know, can be a bit debilitating. But hindsight, we say, is 20/20, when I can look back over the years and I can see God's hand is moving through my life right now, and the song was very appropriate, My Life in the Potter's Hands. Well, in Harlem, it was 8 of us.
8 kids in the family.
8 kids, and matter of fact, with just 2 bedrooms, and a strong grandmother. Believe it or not, we had a mother and father who had us, but didn't raise us. And so that took a little bit of adjustment to do that, but we had a strong grandmother who understood the strong hand with 8 crazy kids like us, and we were crazy. But the foundation of the church, she sure made sure that we went to church. We were going to go to church no matter what, and she would tell us no matter what time you even come in, you're going to church. And we did do that. So that gave some early foundations for all of us. We believe we was a pretty talented family and didn't know we was actually poor, so to speak, until we probably got older. We say, hey, we were pretty poor, you know. But those early days in Harlem, street fights, gang fights, I almost got my eye cut out in a street fight. And I got my back lashed with an iron cord, you know, in a street fight. And I always remember, if anything, I was a scrapper. I didn't get caught up really into the drug and drinking scene, not even in the sex scene, but a lot of scrapping. But going to church set some good parameters, at least for me. I'd like to say for the rest of my family. But one of the great things about that, Nancy, was I can recall we had Sunday evening service at the church we went to, and I really like going to church. I really enjoyed going there. But going to church on Sunday nights, when I would come back in the neighborhood, I always seemed to have missed something that was going on. You know, when I look back, I probably missed a lot of things that I probably would have been
involved in.
Oh yeah, like I said, street fights was like almost a norm. In my neighborhood. The wife I had, you know, my wife now, and at the time she wasn't, but when we talk about it, she would actually tell folks she wouldn't even come in my neighborhood. And I learned a lot about that later on with other people who knew about our neighborhood wouldn't come in there if you didn't live in that neighborhood. But nevertheless, God's hand was moving the way it was, as I learned later, but you're just growing up. But from there, it might have been preparation ground for some other things. I love sports. Playing in basketball in the Rugby League and things of that nature, which is well known to basketballers. I wanted to play college basketball. So by the time that I was ready to play, probably the most traumatic turn in my life is that I got drafted. I got actually recruited off the playground to go play college ball, but then I got a letter in the mail from Uncle Sam who wanted me, you know, to go into the military.
Vietnam War.
Well, that was right, 68. During the heat, they say, of the Vietnam War, and I got drafted, and I got put into the Marine Corps. That's how they did it. Just grabbed a bunch of boys, you know, in the Army and the Marine Corps. And so I didn't believe them at first. But sooner or later, I got those orders that said I was USMC. And something happens to you when you do that. Show you the power of reputation. My chest started going up, my ears started getting big. I'm going to the Marines, I'm a Marine. Haven't even been to boot camp yet, but I'm a Marine. And, but again, more training, teaching, preparing me for this thing of Vietnam. So prior to that, I was very active in the church. I can say one thing, I never really left the church. I was always active in it.
But you know, something that was interesting that you talked about before, the dynamic of what was going on in the 60s with the church was, you said that the kids would come out of the Baptist church that you would go to, and there would be recruiters there for Malcolm X.
Yes, matter of fact, the Nation of Islam was reaching its really head during the 60s under the guidance of Malcolm X, you know, led by Elijah Hammond at the time. And what they would do, and matter of fact, I appreciated their boldness, if anything else, especially they were men. Men, he would, him and others would actually wait when church was out, as some of the Baptist churches, I can remember mine in particular, that when they're coming out of the church, they'd be out in front of the church giving out their newspapers with bean pies and things of this nature. And actually, as a young teenager, I thought that was pretty bold. You know, if your church come out, they would recruiting it. But the thing that really drew my attention was the upward proudness of them being classified and saying that they were black people. Because during my days growing up, you was called the Negro. And if you was called black, that was fighting words during those times. So you don't want to be called black. But with the Muslims coming up there, and plus the other thing that got me too, was in my neighborhood, a bunch of thugs, hoodlums, probably like myself, but a lot of these guys would get arrested. And maybe after months of being away, and when they came back to our neighborhood, they were clean, smelling good, clean cut, talking intelligent. I mean, that would really attract a young man, and that would really made me think about that. So I started going, you know, sneaking naturally, because, you know, girl knew I was going to the temple to hear it, right? So I would go to church, but I would go to hear the temple. And the first time I see the Malcolm X. And just by the profound way that he was teaching, preaching, and the boldness and the stuff they're saying, and teaching us about being black and the research and the study. And that stimulated me to start really doing some research on stuff. It was like the first time I really heard that we were kings and, you know, queens back in the day in the Egyptian Empire, things of this nature. So I had to go research and find that he was really on track. But what he did, I couldn't leave the whole message of Jesus. I just couldn't walk away from that. But he gave me the best impression of how the Bible described Jesus as a man speaking with authority, a man speaking like he knew what he was talking about. And so I would go and get empowered by that, naturally embracing the whole thing of me being black. And still, you know, like I said, going to church, very active, choir director, musician, things of this nature, in the church singing. But I really was drawn by this. Matter of fact, this goatee probably is still a little remnants of that, because I remember coming home, growing my grandmother really didn't go for that kind of stuff. But I was being shaped or being exposed to a lot of information that was empowering me to feel proud of who I was.
And it's interesting.